but one of them had now gotten away with murder and topped it off with another church burning, all consequence free.
Oh, up to this point. I would assume some consequences must be coming, correct?
But just like the Doomsday Machine and Dr. Strangelove, there's no point to any of this if you keep it a secret. So Varg gave an anonymous interview to the Biggins Tidende newspaper.
The what was that?
Biggins Tidende.
The Biggins Tidende?
Biggins Tidende.
Are you sure this isn't a trucker magazine? What's going on?
I don't know how that's pronounced.
No idea.
I think Biggins Tidende. It's a newspaper. In any case,
It's a newspaper.
It's a newspaper. He gave the interview in January of 1993, and this is the interview that Varg refers to as the media event.
Go fuck yourself. Honestly, it's this whole thing where he says he did this on purpose and this is carefully constructed. And it may actually be.
I think it kind of is.
But it's the way that the media was manipulated just so easily. It's because the story was just handed to them.
Yes, exactly.
And so they just ran with it.
Yeah.
It's such a perfect media story.
It's a great media, especially in the 90s. Like, you've got the whole satanic panic thing going on in America, and then all of a sudden Norway has their very own satanic panic. They have their very own huge crime story to cover, and people ate it up. They could not get enough of it. It's just
innocent times, man. The simpler days, the fun days, man.
Yeah.
You got religion, you got church burnings, you got murder, you got it all.
Yeah,
music.
Glory days!
Is that what that song's about?
Yes.
Now, Varg, who it must be remembered, still went by Count Grishnak in casual conversation.
Casual conversation.
Just say, hello, Count. Oh, this is my friend, Count Grishnak. Hello, Grishnak. It's very nice to meet you.
Oh, my God.
Krishna!
We think the pronouns are difficult now. Imagine if everyone was going by count whenever they wanted to.
I did not go to 12 years of fake royalty school to be called Grishnak.
I'm sorry, I didn't. I apologize, Count.
I put myself through several yearly exams.
I know.
I wrote a thesis. I went on summer vacation where I met a girl while working at an ice cream van. I did that. I was still and that was then loosely based on the movie Once Bitten was loosely based on my story
got it.
then.
Well,
but when I graduated,
Yeah.
I stopped being Grishnak.
All right, your account. Can you just pay for this coffee and get out of this gas station, please?
I have no money.
Oh, you just take the coffee.
Well, this was an anonymous interview that he did, but he openly said he knew who had burned the churches, saying that they were, quote,
Showing Othin to the people.
Othin. Odin.
Yes.
Othin. It's Othin.
I see. Okay.
There are 20 different pronunciations for Odin.
Woden, and guess what? And each one of them, it's like Sub-Zero Othin. It is like Desert Othin. It's Pterodactyl Othin. It's half bus Transformer Othin.
That's cool. I like Woden.
Yeah. Oh,
That's my favorite one.
Well, of course, that's the German way of saying it.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Look at that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Right on brand.
Wow.
Woden is also a really great cum sentence.
Woden. Woden. Or if you want to freeze your enemy.
Except
Woden.
it's pronounced Woden.
Oh.
Yeah, but in the German way, Woden. But that's some of that cultural memory we were talking about in the last episode, the Carl Jung cultural memory. You have that, Ben. You were immediately drawn to that.
This is
All
true.
right.
We've never talked about this. Kissel has the power of the runes deep within his blood. Kissel is born with Vril at his fingertips.
I'm gonna start summoning it. You guys better watch out.
Yeah, you're the only one, man. Yeah, I've only got like English and French energy.
Whoa.
A little bit of Native American.
Woden.
Well, Varg was also quoted as saying that one of the churches that was burned on Christmas Eve was burned not because of the date, but because the black meddlers had heard the word peaceful said on TV, and they got all mad about the quote-unquote righteousness in society.
Oh, God.
So this is when Varg becomes the penguin.
They are a D-bags.
Well, Varg says that a lot of the things printed in this article, and for that matter, many of the things printed in Lords of Chaos, are complete and total lies. And there are probably some exaggerations here and there.
Oh, I'm sure.
But the thing is, a lot of the things Varg said in the interview were confirmed, so it's hard to say what's true and what's not.
Yeah.
Now, they may not have burned the church because someone said the word peaceful, but this was the interview in which he mentioned the bunny chase that we talked about in the last episode. And a decapitated bunny was indeed found at Fantoft Church.
But later, the autopsies would reveal that it was a suicide.
Of the bunny? Oh, yes. we gotta increase the bunny's lifestyle.
Yes.
Plus, some of the quotes do sound a hell of a lot like the self-serious bullshit Varg likes to spout to this day, such as...
It's not good for us to laugh. We have nothing to laugh at in this laughable society.
Well, then you got something to laugh at.
Exactly, it's a laughable society. I don't know.
Doesn't make any sense.
But you think about this, right? So now it's obviously a chicken and egg scenario. He now made the media event to tie the black metal scene to the crimes, which then causes heat to show up and investigate everyone, which then also creates an impetus for everybody to make the fiction real. So what he did was is sort of, in a way, he just did the thing, well, like, now we have to walk the walk, because if we don't, we look like a bunch of hypocrites, and I am actually the big, fat, dumbass loser that I sound like.
Right. Are they performing ever?
Yeah, they're
okay,
performing.
They still are. All right.
Varg doesn't do many live performances because it's a one-man band, so it's very tough for him to do a one-man Burzum show. But even Mayhem they didn't do very many performances at all with the original lineup. So these guys are playing shows. Like I think like Emperor and Dark Throne were playing like a ton of shows.
Okay.
But we'll get into what Varg is really all about, or at least what I think Varg is really all about. So after the interview, Varg gave the whole thing one more good kick in the ass, publicity-wise, and used a picture of one of the burned churches as the cover for the second Burzum release. And he called it Aske, which is Norwegian for ashes. Oh. And the EP hadn't been released yet, but Varg had been handing out flyers for it with his address clearly printed on the flyer.
Exactly. It's like if O.J. Simpson had taken pictures of his bloody hands after murdering the two of them and like put out some kind of spoken word album called like, look how big these hands are, wonder if gloves fit them.
Yeah. If you could see my wounds, they're on the inside. And down Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman.
Well, cops put two and two together, went to the address, and arrested Varg for arson. And he was put in prison from January to March of 1993, but he was set free as they couldn't actually prove he was doing anything more than just talking shit. And Varg knew that. Now, this whole thing, from interview to arrest, accomplished exactly what Varg wanted it to. It boosted him both as a figure and the scene and in the national Norwegian media, and it juiced the hell out of the whole black metal scene.
And if you get famous in the national Norwegian media, we're talking hundreds of people.
Do you have any idea how many? I think it's Rickles. What's the name of their money? Rubles.
Rubles. Runkles.
No, rubles is Russians.
Riffles.
It's like sklackles. It's like some weird name. But you'll have up to tens of those.
Wow.
Whatever that is, and you'll have any fjorn you want. That you pick up. I don't know what that is. I think it's a type of shirt. It's like a shirt skirt that they wear. You can have any sort of tiersel, which is like I think is some sort of sandal shoe. It's all of this. They're all combo clothes.
Cool. Kind of selling it there.
Now, things were reaching a fever pitch, and it was only a matter of time before something really big happened. And
We've already had church burnings and murder. That's not big enough for these guys?
No, we're talking really big.
Isn't that? That's okay. Wow.
No.
And that something would not involve anyone on the outside, but rather it would happen from within, with the murder of, how is it? Eystein Ursith?
Eystein of Arsith. Eystein Arsith.
I'm going to go with John Thompson. Can we just call him John Thompson from here on out?
Anyways, that's Euronymous' real name. It's spelled Oystein Arsith, but yeah, it's
Oystein Arthas.
Eystein Ursith.
Eystein Arsith.
Woden.
Now, as we said last episode, Burzum, Varg's one-man band, had signed to Death Like Silence Productions, which was the record label that Euronymous owned and operated.
like with the guitar on a stand, like we showed last night on the stream. It's a guitar
Yeah.
on a stand, him trying to play guitar, running back to the boom, to the drums, like doing like, wait a minute,
up.
going up and hitting like the beats machine, so it's being like, do, and then him screaming, or like doing that thing where you build the layers with the machine, where you play one layer and then click the next thing.
You build the layers. That is how he. I'd assume that's how he recorded all the Burzum albums. I don't think he ran from one.
I
instrument
like
to
Henry's
another.
idea better, though.
Or
I do.
an actual one-man band with this gigantic apparatus that he's playing everything all at once.
Oh, that'd be so fun to see.
This is how I get my steps in. Also, it doesn't that happen all the time in the street in the Europe with the one man bands? It seems like that is an actual band to have, as if you have cymbals between your knees.
Yep, there's a Polish fella off the Bedford stop in Lorimer that he's got the toes tapping, he's got the knees going, he's got a guitar, he's got something going on with his head.
God, I love one-man bands.
He's a great guy.
I love him so much. One of my favorite compilations in the world is called Attack of the One-Man Bands. If you can find it and you like rockabilly type of stuff, go check it out.
Wow.
Now, the recording of the first Burzum album was paid for by Count Grishnak's mother, who Euronymous was supposed to reimburse from album sales. And he never did, nor did he pay any royalties for that album or the Eska EP.
This poor mother.
If you think Varg is a pain in the ass, what is Mom Varg
I think she's
gonna
just
be like?
so desperately trying to forget that her son is a loser.
Well, from what Varg says, she supports him wholeheartedly in his racial opinions.
oh, I see.
Yes, and it's alternative. She's an alternative mother.
I see.
But Euronymous had more problems than just royalties. He was also in a bit of a tiff with a number of bands from the Swedish black metal scene after he mockingly called the bands Therion and Afflicted, quote-unquote, life metal in an interview.
Oh, snap! Oh, this is on. Oh my God, I gotta see
It's
them
like
fight.
saying, it's like having a review that's like more like shit.
Yeah, life metal. Ooh, that cuts deep.
He did, however, have very nice things to say about Marduk.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, and Marduk is a fantastic band, probably the best Swedish black metal band out there.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there are differing opinions, but that is the prevailing opinion.
All right.
Furthermore, Varg's interview had brought so much negative press on the black metal scene that Helvete, Euronymous' record shop that was paid for by his parents, was shut down on the directive of said parents.
No, you can't shut down my record shop, Mom. That's where all my evil is. Mom! Oh, wait a second. I got all of these kebab stains on my belly button. I need to start wearing full shirts.
Oh, trust funds. They're funny. Those kids are a funny bunch.
Well, it's like all of around me in Brooklyn is all like the one-stop shops where it's called like Victorious, and it's got 3 shirts on hangers in there, and there's nothing else in there, and it's obviously just made by someone's parents' cash, and then it's closed in 2 months.
Yep, I walked into a store in Williamsburg recently, and they laughed me out of the building. Like, legitimately, we're just like, we don't have your size. What are you? Get out. And I just kind of left.
Just stitch the other clothes together. Stitch the clothes, put it together. I'm here to spend my money. And then you start immediately turning like a senator, start screaming. That's what I do. When they start telling me that they don't have clothes for me and just being like, I'm here to spend my hard-earned cash. You mean to tell me?
Well, so Euronymous, he's fighting with the Swedes. All the bands are screaming at him about royalties. His parents have made him close down his precious record store. He's losing control here.
He is fighting with all the neutral countries. The courage. The courage.
And they have a lot of
fight.
energy to infight because they're not fighting wars.
That's true. That's a good point.
I also wonder, do you think that it's kind of like Tony Soprano, right? Where he's getting leaks in the ship.
Yeah, sure.
It's starting to like circle all around him. So now he's starting to do the thing where he's going to try and build another narrative where he is going to try, because that's what we're talking about. He's heavily talking shit about the other members of Mayhem. He's talking shit about everybody. He is now, I imagine, throwing out death threats back and forth. Now that someone is dead, because I'm just setting the scene, is that now this man is like alone on a sinking boat, and he needs to get the Charles Manson control of the group again.
Yeah, he's like a little gossip columnist.
Well, I think it's a little. I don't know if it's that cynical with Euronymous. I think with Euronymous, he had been more of a leader on the actual music side because he was the guy that was releasing albums. He was running the record store to sell those albums. No matter how bad he was at it, he was still putting out the music.
So the murders and the church burnings, that's just a side dish.
Euronymous had nothing to do with that.
Nothing
stuff.
to do
It
with
was
it.
a distraction.
I
It was a
see.
distraction, but he was trying to use it.
Yeah.
Like, he was trying to use it, but he was just so stupid. He was just so stupid, and he can't run a business. He's a musician. He just shouldn't be in charge of the record store.
Yeah, and he was an amazing musician.
Okay.
Like, he was a fantastic musician. But yeah, I mean, usually musicians do not make good businessmen.
Different skill sets.
Sometimes they do.
Unless
a lot
you're
of times
Dee
they don't.
Snider.
Yeah.
But then you also have to be 100% sober.
Yeah.
That is the, by the way, do not watch the Twisted Sister documentary. It is so
It's true.
awful. If you,
have
get a
to
chance.
be completely
It's so bad.
sober to be a good musician
Yes.
and a businessman, and none of them are. It's like the three of us talking when we have our business talks.
Oh, yeah.
Where stuff we're like, I mean, really the big thing is that we just gotta chart up.
Yeah. I'm like, well, guys, no matter what's happening, I am tapping this keg. So let's do that. Businessmen. We sniff cards like we're kids in the hall.
Well, Euronymous, he liked to talk a big game about evil and such, but from what I can tell, the black metal scene for him was about just that, black metal. And even in interviews, when he talks about evil, it all just seems forced.
Yes, I doubt that he's a poser. He just cares about the music.
Yeah.
He just wanted to make good albums. He liked the philosophy about it, but mostly he was. But again, that's why I'm saying it's like he was seeing himself lose control over the people because that's how he would have control. So he'd hold court at the record store, and he would have all of these he had all lines of communication running through him. He had his basement where like people from out of town would stay. So it was this great hub of the whole scene that he was in charge of. But in the end, it was just about music. But the problem is that he was up against essentially Varg, who was now taking it to a terrorist level, where it was past the music.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Euronymous was all about the music, but that was not so for Varg Vikernes. For Count Grishnak, this shit was and still is very real and more about the ideas than it was about the music. And that doesn't discount Burzum as a band nor as an influence. No matter how big of a dickhead Varg is, those first two albums are landmarks. It's like we said about Jerry Lee Lewis. Just because he married his underage cousin doesn't mean he's not important to the history of rock and roll.
There we go.
Everybody has their peccadillos. Everybody has their peccadillos.
Yeah, you remember Chuck Berry liked to...
I remember the old Chuck Berry. We did St. Louis. We performed at at one of his famous bars.
Blueberry Hill, yeah.
Blueberry Hill.
Yeah, just because Chuck Berry liked to film women peeing in his restaurant.
That was not good. That
It
does
does
good.
not mean that Chuck Berry is not one of the fathers of rock and roll music.
And also, great chicken in that restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a nice restaurant.
But I just don't. You could have paid him to pee on you.
Yeah, there's a series of mistakes that Chuck Berry made, and now he's gone. And we did make fun of him to the point where we possibly did. Maybe we were complicit in the 90-year-old's death. I don't know.
Yeah, we're not defending any of these guys. Of course, we're not defending any of their actions, but you can't deny that their music, their art, did have a huge effect
Absolutely.
on everything that came out.
Of course, look at Woody Allen or Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
To separate the artist from the art.
Yeah, sure.
I'm actually upset. I want to see that the movie Tom Cruise is in right now, but I can't look at him. I can't do it.
You just can't look at Tom Cruise
Aggravates
anymore.
me.
Yeah.
Sucks.
Yeah. But it seems to me that for Varg, the ideas and principles come first, and the music comes second. And Euronymous and Varg, they fucking hated each other by the end. According to Varg, a lot of other people in the scene hated Euronymous as well, although, again, Varg is an unreliable source. This is what he said about that.
Darkthrone realized what a jerk he was. They didn't want anything to do with him. Fenris liked Austin. Austin? Is it Austin? Is it Austin? Even I have a hard time with it. But the other guys, they hated him. They cursed him in rituals. They were Satanists. That's how they show how they hate. Me, I just wrote Euronymous sucks big ones in bathroom stalls. That was my grassroots.
That's brutal.
But I think a lot of it had to do with money. The reason why everybody else hated him is because he wasn't paying anybody.
Yeah,
he
sure.
fucked up the whole business. He couldn't get reprints of Burzum. That's kind of what the big fight that happened to in Varg and Euronymous is that Burzum, the second album, sold out really fast, but Euronymous could not afford the second rollout of records, and Varg was already in with him for money. Couldn't get his royalties paid out, so he's getting madder and madder. I think that Varg also, because he didn't get the stature that he wanted in the scene, because I honestly think in the end, Euronymous genuinely didn't really care about his position. It happened naturally, and then he was trying to maintain it. Where Varg he wanted what Euronymous had because he thought he was actually more hardcore because we are gonna find out he was the real hardcore one. And when he didn't get it, he immediately like in a way that happens with like easily bored pieces of shit, where he's just like, well, I'm done with this scene. Like I'm out with this, and that's why in the end now his music's all Norse EDM.
Oh,
it's not even that. It's awful.
It's not Norse EDM?
We'll get into Burzum's recent stuff later.
All right.
Now, Faust said that Varg was, quote-unquote, very much into making war with Euronymous, that he didn't like him anymore because he wasn't true enough, and he wasn't paying royalties, which he wasn't.
That's the big issue.
Yeah, that's the big issue.
That is the big issue.
Yeah,
yes.
But also, in the opinion of Faust, Varg didn't like Euronymous because Euronymous got more attention within the scene itself. Varg may have been the poster boy to the squares, but in the scene, Euronymous was still the guy.
Yeah.
Because no matter what, he was pissed off, like a lot of the musicians were pissed off at Euronymous, but the fans loved Euronymous still.
And they went to the record shop and everything,
They
right?
went to the record shop.
He's
like
the hub.
Yeah, to them, like Euronymous was the guy.
Yeah, it's like Euronymous is Kevin Hart and Varg is Hillary Clinton.
I don't quite see the connection, but we're gonna let the audience figure that out and send your theories to us on Twitter at Ben Kissel, Henry Loves You, and Marcus Parks.
Today's last podcast on the left is brought to you by Hunt a Killer. Everyone thinks they'd be a good detective, but how do you know? Hunt a Killer is the first ever interactive investigation delivered straight to your door every month. So if you get Hunt a Killer, you can kind of sort of find out. It delivers clues, correspondence, and items that put you into a serial killer's mind, like you're living in your favorite true crime series. And Hunt a Killer is building a cult-like community of hunters. Their private Facebook group has over 40,000 members. You can apply for membership now at www.huntakiller.com. They only select 200 new members per day, so make sure you answer the questions honestly. If you're accepted, you'll receive an invite with a private link to complete your registration, and your first episode will ship the same day with no shipping charges. But if investigating isn't your thing, you probably know someone who would love this as a gift. And best of all, to help support our show, Hunt a Killer is offering a 10% discount for our listeners. Just go to www.huntakiller.com and use the code Elliot. For Euronymous' part, it seems like he was a lot more worried about the Swedes than he was about Count Grishnak. But on the night of August 10th, 1993, Euronymous would find out who his true enemy really was.
Ooh.
Now, there are 3 versions of what happened that night.
It's like the movie Clue.
But here it's with an umlaut. It's
Clear.
There's Varg's version, the version of the guy who was with Varg, and the official version. Varg's version begins with a call from Samoth of the band Emperor. Allegedly, Samoth told Varg that Euronymous had told him that he was planning to kill Varg by zapping him with a stun gun, tying him up, and torturing him to death.
No, you need to say it the proper Norwegian way, which is electronic shock pistol, which is what Varg calls it again and again.
Okay.
Now, Varg would have brushed this off as Euronymous just talking shit again, but Samoth was supposedly the only person Euronymous had said this to.
Well, we'll get into this. I'll attack this whole theory only because it's like they all issued death threats against everyone. That is just how they all spoke to each other.
That's very difficult. He's not Catwoman. I mean, how powerful is this taser?
Like this is the Sinister Six.
Yeah.
They're all acting like it's a bunch of supervillains all like meandering against each other when it's just a bunch of broke 21-year-olds in the basement of a stinky record shop.
Extremely intoxicated.
Well, Varg reasoned that if Euronymous wasn't being serious, he'd tell everybody, as he was known to do. But since Euronymous only told one person, it was more likely that he was serious about his threat. You see what I'm saying here?
He told one trustworthy black metal enthusiast. In no way are they going to gossip.
They are
no,
all
no,
gossip queens.
Lockbox. Al Gore,
Each one of them, all
lockbox.
they
Lock
do
it
is
in.
What a fucking nest of hens.
Well, that's the irony about all of this.
And that's what Varg said. He said, like, Euronymous, of course, he told Samoth, but of course Samoth reported directly to me, so I found out about it immediately.
Reported directly to him, huh?
Chelsea and Barbara in the office.
God,
Like,
desperate house dweebs. This is unbelievable.
Desperate housewives.
Well, and not only had Euronymous told Samoth that he was going to kill Varg, Euronymous had also just sent Varg a very nice letter.
Oh.
Now, we don't know the exact contents, but Varg described it as, quote,
Sweet, pink, and cozy.
and this naturally made him even more suspicious.
Ooh.
Would you believe every I had a heart above it? And every J, lowercase that is, like in Jörg, or in Jark, or in Gjörg, or in Jark. Everything begins with 3 J's. Mm-hmm. Each one had a heart over it.
Oh.
And I'm like, what are we doing, trying to seduce me? Then come over here and kiss me then, you sweet fucker, always holding out.
Oh, love could be in the air.
So on August 10th, 1993, Varg drove from Bergen to Oslo to, according to him, confront Euronymous about the threats, and he was joined by a guy named Snorri Ruch.
What was that?
Snorri Ruch? It's probably...
Story road. He is the dwarf that keeps all the rest of them awake at night.
I see. I think he's dressed like a furry, right?
It's
He would have to be.
it's Snorre, so it's probably like Snorri Ruch. But we'll call him by his alias, Blackthorn.
That's cool.
Now, you say that Varg drove. Varg was driven by Snor. He called up Snorri. He said, drive me to Euronymous' house. And he has all of these little bitches that are like, yep. And they came, and Varg hid in the back seat with a blanket over him because he said that he was too famous in Norway and that if he's seen, he would cause a commotion.
Of course, I heard about that.
Well, actually,
Blackthorn.
he does make a good point with
Yeah.
that because he was a national figure at this point because he had been arrested for all the church burnings and people were talking about him constantly.
So his mugshots were on the TV, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Everyone knew what he looked like. So Blackthorn had just joined Mayhem, or Snorri, excuse me, had just joined Mayhem, which was Euronymous' band. Now, his part in the story is pretty fuzzy, and although there is some evidence that says he may have known what was going to happen, it seems to me like he might have just been in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was just, as Henry said, he was just doing what Varg was telling him to do.
I see.
So Varg showed up at Euronymous' house in the middle of the night and rang the doorbell. Euronymous let him in, and Varg walked up to Euronymous' 4th floor apartment while Snorri stood outside having a smoke.
Now, Euronymous issued a death threat to you. He then allows you to just walk into his house. He answers the door in his whitey tighties, which are Norwegian, so you know that they're covered in urine stains.
Oh, sure. Well, what are you going to do? You got to let him in.
Now, the only 2 people who know what really happened once Varg got into the apartment are Varg and Euronymous. But according to Varg, Euronymous, still in his underwear, panicked when Varg confronted him and kicked Varg in the chest.
I'm kicking you. I'm going kicking and blast. It's like in Street Fighter.
So if there was like a tail of the tape, what are we talking here? Both 5'7", 115 pounds, reach about 25 inches.
I actually have no idea what their sizes are. I think Varg is actually a fairly tall guy.
Is he a taller guy?
It seems like he is.
I think he's a taller guy. They're both like gas station attendant fit.
My size.
You know what I mean? Where it's like they could wrestle a homeless man, but only if the homeless man's too drunk to fight.
I see. All right.
Varg said Euronymous ran to the kitchen to grab a knife, so Varg pulled his knife and stabbed Euronymous before he could get there. Euronymous then allegedly ran towards his room where Varg said he kept the shotgun that Dead had killed himself with.
Doesn't know if that's real or not. He did not know if that was true or not, but what he said is that if it was true, he had to defend himself.
but Varg managed to chase Euronymous out of the apartment, who was screaming for help and ringing the doorbells of all his neighbors.
Which gave Varg complete contempt, because he died like a coward who goes screaming and running like a little girl. It's like, you're stabbing him.
Yeah, you are stabbing him.
You're stabbing him. He's in his underwear. It's 3 a.m. He doesn't know what the fuck's going on.
He's wearing his cool I Heart Transylvania shirt.
Well, Varg said that since he was now absolutely convinced that Euronymous had been planning to kill him, Varg decided to end it right then and there. Ooh. And as Euronymous was running down the stairs, Varg stabbed him in the back again and again. Euronymous fell, and Varg delivered the killing blow by stabbing him in the skull hard enough to make the knife stick.
Whoa. Jeez, that is not easy to do.
That is not easy to do at all.
No, you have to be very mad at someone.
That is a fatality there.
Well,
my goodness.
But I don't know if he's telling the truth on that, because the coroner's report says that Euronymous was stabbed 23 times, and they list the official cause of death as blood loss. Varg is the only one who says that he stabbed Euronymous in the skull so hard the knife stuck. No one else says that.
Nothing Varg says is true. I am now convinced. I've listened to him tell this story 4 or 5 times. He does it again and again on his YouTube page. He did it in the documentary, and I think he is full of shit. I think that he panicked and was just stabbing him, and then he died at the bottom of those stairs while Snorri was just outside, just being like, oh.
Still smoking the world's longest cigarettes, apparently. I don't know what the heck
it was
is
a
going on with
500.
that guy.
It was Marlboro's 500.
You gotta light it with a torch or something.
Now, it may have happened that way. It may have been self-defense, but there is a mountain of evidence to the contrary that says this was a premeditated act through and through. Mm-hmm. Now, according to the official court documents, there was a third accomplice in all of this. Just before Snorri and Varg left Bergen for Oslo, they set up an alibi. First, they rented a movie, one they had already seen, so they could describe the plot to police later.
And apparently it was Mrs. Doubtfire, because according to them is that, if you rented it, how could you not stay at home and watch it?
I agree. He just wants his children back, and then actually it's a very creepy film.
Anachronism. Mrs. Doubtfire was not released yet.
1993!
Anachronism!
No!
Wow. Wowza.
Wait, what year was Mrs. Doubtfire?
93!
I don't know about that.
It might not have been on video. God, it was 93.
Okay, it was on video.
I don't know if it was on.
Out.
I don't know if it was on video yet, because
this
whole
was 6 months.
This whole thing happened in August, and I'm pretty sure Mrs. Doubtfire was a summer video.
Maybe
and it takes a long time for videos back then.
It was 6 months. It was 6 months to the day.
Back then in the 90s, it took a long time for a video to be released in other countries as opposed to America.
I don't know.
Harvey Firestein, he was very
We'll
funny.
let the listeners figure this one out.
They can figure that out. But hot flashes.
At Marcus Parks, at Henry Loves You.
Wow.
I call anachronism.
Wow. I will decide the truth on that.
Well, after they rented the video, they left an ATM card with the third accomplice, who was supposed to take out some cash in the middle of the night to make it look like Varg was still in Bergen. Unfortunately, they left the wrong card, so that part of the plan fell apart.
So fucking stupid. And then Varg also brought with him a contract that would have released Burzum from Death Like Silence Productions, because that was his whole reasoning was saying, I went to Euronymous' apartment to hand deliver this contract, to throw it in his face so that he could see that Burzum had left, and Euronymous tried to murder me, which is garbage. They had been barely talking. It was already happening, where it was like Euronymous was trying to reel him back in because he wanted Burzum on the label, because he loved Burzum, he loved the band, and technically had a lot of weird love for Varg, but Varg just rejected him completely, and so he just thought he had built this solid thing, when in reality it was fucking a Coen Brothers movie where everybody's a moron. Like, he fucked it up completely.
Oh my goodness. He used his head like a butcher block. That is horrible stuff here. If he did it.
Well, the whole thing with the contract, Snorri said that if Varg dropped off the contract with Euronymous releasing Burzum, then everybody would think that everything was hunky-dory between them. And that there would be no reason for Varg to kill Euronymous. And that, according to Snorri, that's exactly what Varg told Euronymous the visit was for through the intercom, was when Varg was trying to get into Euronymous' building. Because Euronymous did not want to let Varg in.
Yeah, shouldn't have let him in there.
Yeah, of course not. No, it's 3 a.m. Somebody has just driven 12 hours to come see you in the middle of the night. Why are you going to let him in the house? He's like, I just went to bed. Come back in the morning. And then Varg was insistent, and Euronymous let him in. And for some reason, when Snorri retells the story, he only refers to Varg as the Count.
Oh, God, all of these people reminds me of high school when we used to play D&D, and then we used to call each other by the names of our characters.
God, really?
Wait a second, what?
Like,
In public, in school?
Outside of the D&D game?
Yeah, my name was Ignatius Nostradamus because I was an elf wizard. I was a chaotic good elf wizard.
Wow. 7 years to get that piece of information out. Wow, that is... What was Ignatius? What was that name?
Ignatius Nostradamus?
Ignatius Nostradamus.
Yeah, it was cool. And I had control of fire.
So
Stu! Is that Stu?
So you were a pyromancer as well?
Yes. Thank you, Marcus, for using the proper term.
Wow.
Hey, if he's going to be nerdy, he better be nerdy right.
Oh, absolutely. Get into it.
Well, Snorri said the Count had brought gloves with him as well, but he forgot to wear them.
Which is what Varg tried to use as a reason why it was not a premeditated murder. He's like, well, I had shooting gloves on me. I would have used my shooting gloves, which is the dumbest shit I've ever heard, that you even need to bring shooting gloves for your stuff, whatever. But obviously his story's filled with holes.
Story's not changed for 21 years. That's why it's true. It's like, no, you just got a good story and you stuck with it.
Rolling with it, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think I may actually have some proof of why Euronymous let Varg into the room.
Why?
There's a bit of a piece that was written online that I found that I hear that I mean, honestly, it tells the story like pretty accurately, and I think it's pretty close to what like actually went on between the two of them.
What's the name of the website that you read this on?
Well, yeah, I'll read this story.
Okay.
22-year-old Varg Vikernes waits outside of Euronymous' flat and knocks. Euronymous answers half naked, and his face is streaked with the sweaty remnants of face paint, expressionistic black and white geometric patterns, which once depicted him as a demonic and diabolical internal creature, but now only serves to characterize him as a lame Kiss impersonator. Varg, it's been a while. Varg, staring at his feet as he nervously scuffs the floorboards. Hi, Euronymous, and yes, it's been like 9 months, not that I'm counting. Euronymous. Varg, we're friends. You can call me by my real name, Eystein. Oystein? Varg, finally looking into Euronymous' eyes, very sheepishly. Okay. Hi, Eystein. Euronymous. What brings you to Oslo, my